In the early 20th century, the motor car evolved very rapidly. The quadricycle was followed by an automobile equipped with a light roof, a headlight, and a handlebar for steering. But within a few years, the automobile had become almost modern. It had two headlights and, above all, a steering wheel. It also had a proper front to it. More than this, though, the automobile was starting to find a clientele. The Peugeot car was becoming an object that people looked at and bought, a tool for getting around in, at speeds of already almost 60 kilometers an hour. How would Peugeot guide the automobile's evolution from here on? The First World War brought car production to a halt, and with it the evolution of Peugeot automobiles. All Peugeot's factories were given over to the wartime effort. It wasn't until after the war, in 1918 and 1919, that Peugeot was able to launch a post-war vehicle. And this vehicle was the Quadrillette, a singular and economical model aimed at what it was hoped would be a large clientele, but which, given the situation of the country, was bound to be somewhat reduced. For how long could Peugeot stick with just this economical model? A question the company thought long and hard about. Over the period from 1920 to 1925, with the economy picking up and increased growth, there were real questions posed about car production, and Peugeot had two answers. The first was to make an 8-horsepower model, a car which could travel at 75 kilometers an hour and should satisfy a growing clientele in the increasingly prosperous 1920s. The second was to make a luxury car, like this 6-cylinder model. In fact, between these two alternatives, Peugeot wondered whether the answer might lie elsewhere. The automobile world had changed. In the United States, they were not making cars by hand, as in Europe, but in factories. This was a real development to which Peugeot had to respond quickly. And Peugeot's answer to the modern world is here in front of us. It could have been called the 629 for its 6 horsepower and the year 1929. But it was called the 201 because it was the Peugeot brand's 201st project. This 201 marked Peugeot's passage from small-scale to industrial production. This 201 was made in the great factory of Sochaux, a factory organized in the American way, a rational and structured factory where the production of the cars followed a logical order. This rational American organization put down roots in the country around Montbéliard. The 201 was a phenomenal success and led to the 301, 401 and 601 models. Peugeot was starting to create a range. This was a new vision, a new way of looking at the automobile industry, which allowed Peugeot to weather the downturn of the 1930s. In 1934, Peugeot decided to modify the 01 range with the launch of the 02 range. The 402 was the first model designed by Henri Thomas, with its singular and original front and, for the first time, integrated headlights.